Good day and welcome to Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. I'm Troy Deshabir Schuster, State Director of AARP in this territory, and we're pleased to be with you again this week having conversations about all of the exciting things that are happening in this territory, especially as they apply to the older population on the islands of St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. And today we have with us a special guest. We have Governor Albert Bryan. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you, Troy, and it's a pleasure to be here with you to talk AARP. As a member, I'm really excited about this.
Great, thanks so much. And first of all, I want to wish you and your family happy holidays, especially First Lady Yolanda Bryan and your daughters, and also to start this holiday broadcast by thanking you for all that you've done for AARP in the Virgin Islands and for the older population here. You've certainly been a friend to us, and we are most grateful. You may not even remember that one of the very first acts that you performed as governor was signing one of the bills that we proposed into law. For many years now, AARP has been working on the reform of the probate code as well as the guardianship codes of the Virgin Islands. And we have done tremendous work in this area, especially in collaboration with the Uniform Law Commission of the United States and our Uniform Law Commissioner here in the Virgin Islands, Attorney Tom Bolt. And so the first bill that you signed into law that you approved was actually 4 acts of the Uniform Law Commission rolled into one bill locally. And the first one of those in that bill was the Real Property Transfer on Death Act, then the Uniform Custodial Trust Act, the Uniform Disclaimer of Property Interest Act, and the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act. And for our listening audience, I'll just give a little insight into each one. First of all, the most important one, I believe, is the Real Property Transfer on Death Act. So if you have a will, but you don't have a trust, when you die, your property still goes into probate. Whereas with the Real Property Transfer and Death Act, and this is now fully implemented, you can go to the Recorder of Deeds and fill out a simple form and place on your property who you want the heir to be, the beneficiary to be upon your death. And that way your property will never go into probate. It'll go right to that person upon your death, and you maintain control of your property. If you decide you don't want that person to inherit the property anymore, you can take them off without their permission. If you decide you want to sell it, you can do so. If you want to rent it out or do whatever you want with your property up until the moment of your death. But when you die, the person on that real property transfer on death deed will inherit. The second one, the Uniform Custodial Trust Act, enables a person to establish a commonly desired form of living trust by simply registering assets in the name of one individual as a custodial trustee or beneficiary. The Uniform Disclaimer of Property Interest Act is an interesting one because sometimes we inherit property that we don't really want. Sometimes a property can end up being a burden. And through this act now enforced here in the Virgin Islands, one can easily disclaim their interest in that property. And the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act, that's, let's say, if 3 people or even 2 people or more inherit one piece of property, and one of the heirs no longer wants that property, how is that going to be settled? Hitherto, at least prior to this bill, the court would usually order a sale of the property, and then everybody loses out and they just have to share the money. Whereas this Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act enables the court to find other ways to divide the property among the heirs, or to allow the heirs who are still interested to buy out the others. So that's really, really important. And these 4-in-1 do incredible work to reform the probate code in the Virgin Islands. And again, AARP proposed this along with our Uniform Law Commissioner, and you signed this into law days after you took office. Regarding elder abuse, you signed a very important bill that was proposed by by one of our senators and supported by AARP to increase the penalties for elder financial abuse. And we have another one coming up next year. So we're looking forward to you signing that into law once that passes the legislature, a much more comprehensive anti-elder abuse bill. The AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. You formally enrolled the Virgin Islands in this network of age-friendly states and communities, therefore showing your commitment to make the Virgin Islands a more livable community for people of all ages. And that was a major step for the Virgin Islands, especially from AARP's perspective and from the perspective of the World Health Organization. First Lady Bryan traveled with me to one of our AARP Livable Communities conferences in Maine. And she became a star and helped me to become a star too, by the way, right? Because no other state director ever gets their first lady to come to an AARP conference. And First Lady Bryan was so excited by all of our livable communities ideas, and that led to collaborations with her office. And we're so excited about that and look forward to future collaborations with her. Also, you signed in, you enabled us to start up the Commission on Aging, right? And that's so very important. Prior to that, we did not have a Commission on Aging, whereas every state and almost every municipality across the country has a Commission on Aging. And now you have made it possible for us to develop the Commission on Aging here. I'm still working with your Chief Legal Counsel, David Bourne, to work out the details. And hopefully as early as next month, we'll have the first meeting of that Commission on Aging. And so many, many other things that you have done for AARP and for the older population. And so we want to thank you publicly for all that you've done. And we look forward to doing so much more. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you. I'm part of that population now, so it could be a little bit of self-interest there. But seriously, the majority of our population is over 50. But aging is looking so much different than it did before. I mean, our president is 78, so that just kind of that's always my benchmark. And then I'm in the community, I'm amazed at how older people are doing so much more. And in effect, it is timely because we need the participation among our more experienced residents, because we have such a talent shortage and a worker shortage in general. So we're glad to see them participating.
Yes, and talking about that aging population, some of the things we hope to see in the future, but this is a multi-year plan that we have, AARP, that is for the Virgin Islands, is to see more assisted living communities with different levels of service, more than we have now. We need skilled nursing facilities, CMS certified skilled nursing facilities, so very important. We don't have that now. I know that the Department of Human Services is working toward that, and we've had conversations with them. So we're hoping that you will push that forward. And we need enhanced hospitals here in the Virgin Islands. You know, when I was on the board, the governing board of the Wang Eflui Hospital, I heard some of my other colleagues on the board talking about this hospital being a community hospital, but no, our hospitals in the Virgin Islands are level 1 trauma centers, right? We have no other hospital. In the States and the mainland, you can talk about community hospitals where you can send patients down the road to a level 1 trauma center. But here, all we have are level 1 trauma centers. And so we're hoping to see improvements in that. We're seeing that we're getting some new CEOs now, and we're hoping to see great things come about as a result of that.
Well, you know, all great things take time, and I'd really like to start with senior housing. We have about a $1 billion revamping of our public housing communities. Slowly but slowly, we're turning all of those communities around, tearing down 50 and 60-year-old communities and putting up newer communities that are smaller and have more ability to do things like assisted living. About 20 to 30% of all the housing that we're doing now is senior housing. There's single bedrooms that we're doing just because we anticipate that need moving forward as more and more people age and get out of the workforce and need affordable living. It is extremely important during this period because of the incredible inflation that we've seen over the last 2 years. and that will continue to do so in the Virgin Islands. A lot of what I'd like to be able to do is to plan. And, we have this 20-year plan, and it's important that we take care of the bookends, the very young and the seniors. And when you look at that plan, what is of great concern to me is the rate of inflation versus the rate of the retirement pay, Social Security, and everything escalating. What it's saying it's going to be harder and harder for people to live independently as they get older if they are not working. So we are preparing for that by creating public housing spaces that are beautiful for our seniors to live in. If you ever been to Louis Brown, there's a senior community there, independent living, beautiful place to live in. So more of that type of scenario to help our seniors who want to live independently. As far as assisted living, the skilled nursing centers are something that we've been working diligently on. I will be the first to admit that I am a bit of the reason for the slowness there, because I really think that the government should focus on what it has to do really well. And one of those things is not doing these type of centers, that we really need a private sector partner to go into that. We'll build it and we'll fund some of it, but then we need the private sector partner to make it profitable so it at least pays for itself and it's well maintained, and CMS can reimburse us, or Medicaid and Medicare can reimburse us for any care that we give out in those centers. We have a serious border problem in both our hospitals, and I'm glad that you mentioned that these are level 1 trauma centers. I think our medical and our health community have done an extremely good job given the circumstances of the last year of the pandemic, plus the limited resources that they have available to them. But we continue to do the things to strengthen that healthcare system. Things like right now we're about to launch a nurse retention and recruitment effort, trying to secure the nurses that are already here in the territory and trying to encourage nurses from away, whether they're from here or not, to move to the territory. We have the same thing with our allied health workers, where we have challenges. And you can look at this two ways. The first one, most important, is, the seniors in our community, they're going to need the assistance. But on the other hand, you can look at it as a tremendous workforce development opportunity, because we're going to need people to be able to manage the healthcare or the welfare of those seniors as we move forward.
Yes, and what we're hoping to see here in the Virgin Islands ultimately is a vibrant retirement community. I mean, look at Southern Florida, right? And retirees from all over the United States are converging on Southern Florida and bringing so much money into that economy. Could you imagine if we had that here? And when I mentioned earlier about different levels of service, so there's some people who want more of a first-class service. I remember when my father was in his last couple of months of life, we could not manage his health care at home and in the house in particular. And so we sent him an air ambulance, took him up to Miami and put him in this fabulous nursing home in Coral Gables. It was like the Ritz-Carlton of nursing homes, right? I mean, when you walk in, it's marble and granite everywhere and crystal chandeliers. I mean, his room was all hardwood floors, and his meals were served by men in jacket and tie. And we need that level of service, as well as a standard level for those who may not be able to afford that level. And if we had all of that here in this beautiful territory with the warm weather that's so much better for arthritis, right? Could you imagine the numbers of people who would come here and retire? So we hope that that's part of your long-term goals. I know that cannot be accomplished in 1 or 2 years, but if you can slip that into your 20-year plan.
Well, the new JFL, actually you're spot on, because it has always been in my crosshairs, because the new JFL is upwards of $750 million. That's billion with a B. We're going to be building that. The early models are out now, so you can look and see what that hospital is going to look like. But that's such a key economic driver for us, because once we get that type of healthcare on St. Croix, we have plenty of acreage in order to support boomers who are retiring, and my generation will be retiring. These people have a lot of money and they would love to live here, but they can't because of access to healthcare. When you have a stroke or a heart attack, they're not death sentences anymore. You can live, you can rehabilitate, and you can be back, but seconds count. It's close. It's good that we're a small island, but we have to have the services available here. Because myself, I want to live in the Virgin Islands until I depart this dear earth. So there's a little bit of self-concern there as well. But having these people move to the place, invest in here, and then speaking to your trust wills and whatnot, that's a lot of investment money that's going to keep coming to the island. And all these people, they like to eat well, they like entertainment. I mean, you know, I was talking to a senior the other day, and he told me he broke his neck jumping from a plane. I said, "How old were you when you did that?" He said, 65. I was like, "Okay, that's hope for me." So I mean, I'm 53 and I'm pretty active. I scuba, I cycle, you know, I fish. So I want to maintain that lifestyle throughout, but I also want to have access to healthcare here on the islands. And then to your point, there's a level of affluence that's going to afford some different types of opportunities. But even on the base level, we want to be able to take care of our seniors in their golden years with a level of pride that's second to none. And here we go with planning again. I don't know if you know Troy, but I'm an incessant planner. I plan my life, I plan my kids. I even, you know, planned out how I'm going to I plan everything. But we need, as a community, we need to start planning better. People my age now, you got to look at what your salary looks like, the potential of what state of health you're in, when you're going to retire, how long you'll probably live, and then make good decisions in terms of, do I buy a house with an incredible mortgage at this age? How am I going to get my kids into school? When I retire and my income reduces, will I be able to balance my mortgage and still have a good quality of life? If you plan for those things when they happen, because it will happen, you can have a very smooth transition. And then to recognize that retirement, for a lot of people, they look at it as a reward for having led work for 30 years. Retirement is really set up for you to be able to sustain yourself when you can't work anymore. And we need to start looking at it like that. So if you can work, you know, work, but, you know, once you start to get these benefits, you got to put them in deposit and invest them in a way that you have recurring income coming in on a monthly basis if possible. And you got to start planning that now. So this is an AARP show, but if you're in your 20s, you want to be listening to what we're talking about here, which transitions to the biggest thing I think we can do for the senior population in the Virgin Islands is fix the GERS system. We've been back and forth with the legislature over the last couple of months. You know, we sent 3 different proposals to them the year before last, or last year rather, and we weren't successful in getting them to buy in. The plan that we're working on now fixes the GRS permanently. So we are still negotiating with them. We've been working very closely with Senator Donna Fred Gregory, Noel Francis, VLA, Milton Potter. They have a little GRS team, Blyden and Carla. We've all been working really closely together in this group. We have a meeting tomorrow where we'll be talking about, I guess Wednesday, where we'll be talking about some details, and then hopefully we can have a plan out and before the end of the year. If we can get this done, the plan becomes solvent all the way through year 2052. It's just streaking, doing really well. Of course, no gain comes without pain. So we have some pain points that we have to be able to do. And I think we're in an economic environment now where we can do them the least painfully we would ever be able to do it before. But as a community, we're going to have, and especially as a government and retiree community, we're going to have to understand that doing this means that we have to give up on some creature comforts in the future. Not for long, but for a little while. So My mom always said, when dog got money, they buy cheese. So we're not buying cheese. We're buying dog food when we got money. So we gotta get it done.
Yeah, yeah. No, GERS is super important. I know it's a major concern, not only for the older population, but for every government employee who's still paying into it, and who wants to receive some kind of benefits from the system, from their investment in the system. So we look forward to seeing your plan as it comes before the legislature. That's very interesting now.
So I mean, even when you go back to my vision, which is in a way ironically is counterproductive, because we want people to live longer. It costs us more money on the GRS, but we've also been doing things to try to get the community healthy, because we pay for our sick people no matter what. Because whether you have money or don't, you go to the hospital, we take care of you. So there are a couple of things that we're doing along that line. We've just partnered with the Diabetes Center for Excellence. Diabetes is something that plagues our people. We're buying 2 vans in partnership with them, and we're taking the education, the health, fitness to people to help them manage their diabetic situation better. This is going to improve the quality of life for people immensely. I mean, it's priceless once you learn how to manage your diabetes. It's incredible how that pays back. Hopefully, you won't ever have to use the dialysis center that we're also sponsoring with a nonprofit of $1 million to have some alternatives around care in St. Croix. If we have a hurricane or if anything else happens, people don't want to go to the dialysis center that they have established. We have one that's being done by a nonprofit, and we invest in there. And then finally, we have a kind of get out and get fit initiative we have $1 million that we're going to put out. We've been trying to get this out for a while, and it's just coordination is sometimes hard in the public spaces, community centers, sports parks and recreation, doing all types of fitness targeting seniors, working class people, as well as young people to get fit. So yoga, aerobics, cycling, whatever you name it, it's all going to be for free. You're going to be hearing a lot about that. And of course, our walkability. We always want to get our seniors, everybody out walking and active, get that heart pumping and those lungs expanding. So being fit and avoiding the hospital is a big part of what I want to bring as a culture to the Virgin Islands. I think we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to hear about the government investing in a new dialysis center. You probably don't know that my grandmother, Anseta Deshabert, or Miss Annie as everybody addressed her, she started the first dialysis unit on St. Croix back in the 1960s. The legislature of the Virgin Islands passed a resolution recognizing her for starting the first dialysis unit here on St. Croix. And actually, over the years, we have bought, dialysis machines for the Wong F. Louis Hospital. We've always been benefactors of that hospital. And so dialysis is something that's near and dear to us, especially because I've had a brother and 2 uncles who have been on dialysis, and it's so much needed. You mentioned also about walkability. AARP has been a major part of that Walkability Institute. And we appreciate that participation with the Department of Health, and we proposed a bill that's really like the summit of walkability, which is complete streets. And you vetoed it once on the technicality, and you had to veto it. So thank you for doing so. There was a mistake that the legislature made. But we're working that out now. It already went through the Committee of Primary Jurisdiction. It'll be going through Rules and Judiciary in January, and then will be approved by the full body, and then back to you again. So I think we've worked out the reason why you vetoed it. So now we're looking for you to approve that once it comes back before you. It's now making that public appeal for you to sign.
Absolutely. We've been working with Senator Payne on that. He's really hot on that as well, too. So we have constant contact between our office and theirs to get it done, because the walkability is huge. I mean, the one thing I think about is the tremendous amount of food we eat every lunchtime, and, those meals were made, to go back out in the field and work for a little while. So, creating ways for people to walk in our community, to cycle, That's what it's about. I think the beautiful thing is we have such a incredible gem in the fact that we can be outside year round, and we take it for granted because we can be outside year round. So creating spaces where we could eat, work, and play live, work, and play is important to me. That's why our downtowns and creating living environments in our downtowns, we have more people walking around. If you see what we're doing in Frederickstead with the playground, we're doing a whole thing, adding free internet, the improvement of the walkways in Charlotte Amalie downtown with the waterfront. All of that is to encourage people to be more in town, to be mobile on their own power and human power and get around. So that'll just make a better community for all of us.
Yes, and I just mentioned the Department of Health earlier. I mentioned the Department of Human Services. And I want to thank you and your cabinet. We have had great partnerships with so many of your departments, with Vitima, with Human Services, Department of Health. The list goes on. Sports, parks, and recreation, and they've always been very responsive to us, and we look forward to future collaborations. I always tell people, stop sitting back and throwing stones at the governor, whoever the governor may be, not just trying to defend you. Stop throwing stones at the government in general. We need to work together. We need to form partnerships. We need to collaborate, because together we can grow as a community. We can't expect one person to do it all. That's simply humanly impossible. So again, thank you for all of that. And we're almost out of time, but any final word for us? We have just about 1 minute left.
No, I just want to make sure that I, say thank you to the AARP and you, Troy, for your leadership, because together we have done so much. But as a community, when you look at what we're doing in Frederickstead with the playground, what we did up Little Bay and Lagoon and St. Croix, and other things that we're doing, we just work together. And I get a little bit of heat for giving money and spreading money around the community to nonprofits, but we need to share the work, and people can't work without resources. So you can count on me to be a partner, as long as I sit in this office and even after.
Yes, yeah, perfect. And talking about the playground in Frederickstead, I've already been speaking with Commissioner White about doing a playground in St. Thomas, and we also want to adopt Limprick Park on King Street and really enhance that park. So we have lots more stuff coming, bills for you to sign, and all kinds of great projects to work on together. So thank you again. And so thank you for being with us today. We're out of time, and we look forward to having you on the show in the near future again and talking about more ideas.
Thank you, Troy. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.